So on the one hand, I'm like not at all the target demographic for this movie. I don't know anything about Dune, even though I really like sci-fi. I've never engaged with any of the previous media. I haven't read the books. I haven't seen the miniseries, the movie, David Lynch, none of that stuff. I know nothing about Dune, but I love sci-fi. On the other hand, I'm kind of definitely the target demographic for this movie because I love Denis Villeneuve, the director. He did Prisoners, Sicario, Blade Runner 2049. He did Arrival, and I love all of those films. I'm a huge fan of his work. And when I found out he was directing Dune, again, a property I know jack squat about, it was kind of exciting for me because I think I'm kind of the guy they're going for. Somebody who like loves and adores and appreciates movies and good cinema, but doesn't really know about this universe. So I'm the guy that they kind of have to try and snag. This property has always been talked about as one of those IP that's kind of like impossible to put on film. I think hence kind of the mixed reception to the previous adaptations of Frank Herbert's work. And so I think at the same time, I'm both like well positioned to talk about this movie and not well positioned to talk about this movie. So I'm going to talk about this movie. Thanks so much for checking out the video. Before we get started, click on that red subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you know whenever I post a new piece of content. So Dune, let's talk about this thing. I don't know anything about Dune other than the fact that it's a series of books by Frank Herbert. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Sci-fi? Yep. I know it's sci-fi. And I know that there's sand and like big sandworms, but that's pretty much it. Um, there's a lot here to digest. For a movie that's just over 2.5 hours, it doesn't necessarily do the best job of giving you exposition or introducing you to its characters. You're just kind of tossed into the mix in this massive, like, global, not even global, like universal politics and space piracy and all of this. There's this war over spice, and which is just like a massive MacGuffin that completely like dominates the entire conversation about the film. Um, and I think to the movie's detriment, it doesn't do a good job of kind of like giving you a starting point. You just kind of are tossed into it. It kind of feels like the first 5 or 6 episodes of Game of Thrones, where you're just kind of they're like, here you go, play in this world, have fun, good luck. And yeah, for a movie that's 2.5 hours long, that doesn't really work in the way I think that Villeneuve and the other filmmakers involved with this project kind of felt like it would. So the movie struggles under the weight of its own, I think, expectations to a certain extent, but also the way it tells its story. You're just expected to dive in and good luck and go for it, and that works for me. I can understand how it would be a struggle for some people. I was able to pick up on most of what was going on based on simple observation and actually, paying attention. But I think the average American filmmaker kind of wants to be spoon-fed, what they're supposed to think and feel. And Dune it's smarter than that, and in a way that works against the film while also working for it. This is very much like thinking man's sci-fi. It's a movie that requires you to pay attention. It requires that you care. And I have a feeling that this movie really works a lot if you're familiar with the books. I think if you understand the media and you know what you're getting into, having read the books, this probably plays a lot better for people who are in that situation. Which I'm just not. I'm not that guy. I didn't know about some of like the pseudo weird like religious elements and the vision stuff, and I just didn't know about any of that stuff going in. So for me, not knowing what I was getting into was kind of a detriment because I spent all this time, in my head trying to figure out exactly what was going on, which is something the movie did an adequate, I'd say a decent, but not good and not great job at. So yeah, that's one of the things that I think works against the film is that it's so reliant on foreknowledge of that universe that coming into it, you really, really, really have to force yourself to pay attention to some of the little small character details and beats and moments in order to kind of fill in some of the blanks for yourself. Not a lot of films do this in today's day and age. A lot of films will just give you all the information you need and shove it right in your face and spoon feed it to you. And Dune simply doesn't go that route. And that's not really the director's style. Villeneuve isn't really like known for being a spoon feed you information guy, which I respect and appreciate. And so that just continues here. And this is a movie that feels like it's trying to be, big time Hollywood summer blockbuster, which again, that's not really like his style. That's not really the type of movie that he makes. He makes like the thinking man's thriller. He makes the thinking man's movie about, the drug cartels. He makes the thinking man's movie about, future tech and science fiction with Blade Runner. He's like the thinking man's sci-fi guy. So this movie really does double down on that from him. Things the movie does well. The performances are all great. Timothee Chalamet is fantastic as Paul Atreides. Oscar Isaac is great as Duke Atreides. Stellan Skarsgård is really, really good as the Baron. Rebecca Ferguson is fantastic in this. She, spends a lot of time wringing her hands and crying and being sad, but when she does that, she does a pretty good job at it. Josh Brolin is in this movie. There's like a lot of like big name actors that kind of pop up here. Josh Brolin, Javier Bardem, Zendaya. I'm told it's Zendaya, not Zendaya. So if you want to fight with me in the comments about how to pronounce her name, that's fine. We can do that. Yeah, there's a lot of names in here. Jason Momoa is like totally a major character in this movie. And they're all really, really, really good in service of what the film is trying to do. It's not, it's a great looking movie. Movie looks spectacular. And that shouldn't be any surprise coming from this director, somebody who really knows how to properly frame shots and show you exactly what he wants you to see. And I think that's one of the movie's strengths, is that he really is dialed into showing you exactly what he wants you to see, no more, no less. And I think that the movie has pacing issues, and I think some of it's related to the script and the way the story is told. But yeah, it's a gorgeous looking movie. It's, and it's interesting because Villeneuve can do something that's, gritty and drenched in neon lights and smoke and water like Blade Runner, and then he can do, you know, grimy, like, gunfights and caves and all that stuff in Sicario, and then he can do, a combination of like big, bright open spaces in the desert versus like underground caverns and these massive, like, kind of concrete, USSR feeling, like just basic concrete buildings that kind of permeate the landscape of Dune. So yeah, the style of this film, the music is really, really, really good. Uh and yet there's something that's kind of missing from the whole thing. It's a good looking movie, it's a good sounding movie, it's well acted. The script is okay. But it doesn't seem to have that magic that most of Villeneuve's films have. And it's a bit of a shame in that regard. I wouldn't say it's a letdown because I'm really interested to see where the next movie goes. He's making two of these films, and it's clear that you got to see both of them in order to fully capture what the story he is trying to tell involves. So I'm really interested to see where they go next with Dune 2 or whatever they're going to call it. Dune Chapter 2, Dune Part 2. I don't know. Maybe they're going to give it a subtitle. Who cares? But yeah, so Dune, if you like Villeneuve's movies, I would suggest check this one out. It's very much of his ilk. It feels a lot like his other movies, but it's not his best work. It's just not. There's no way around that. It's got pacing problems. It got script problems. And you can't get around that stuff. Those things exist. And they are a part of this movie, like it or not. So Dune, it's in theaters. It's on HBO Max. Maybe check it out. Thanks so much for watching the review. If you liked it, if you found it helpful, please consider subscribing. You'd also like and share the video. That tells YouTube, hey, it's worth promoting. Let me know in the comments. What do you think of Dune? Am I crazy? Is this Denis Villeneuve's best movie and I've lost my damn mind? Let me know. See you next Wednesday. 9 a.m.